Hello. Anu, am I audible? Can you just unmute and let me know? Am I audible? Okay. And can you also unmute and let me know whether I am able to hear you? Okay, I am not able to. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can put it on chat. Okay, that will be the better thing to do. So what I will do is, I will just pin my screen. Give me a second. Yes. So yesterday we went through anti-money laundering chapter. So when we look at anti-money laundering, okay, so there are certain international laws and rules which is not that important. The main sections, the offense, and those 24 questions that we were looking into yesterday are the important ones for the exam. Okay, so you can go through that. I'll collate all the questions from the previous year question papers under anti-money laundering. See, almost it's the same that we have covered. So I thought without any waste of time, we will move on to audit of different service organizations. Okay. So that is what we are going to do. Audit of different service organizations. Okay. So this is very interesting, as well as you get a lot of questions over here. Fine. So there are different service organizations, and each and every service organization has a different way of doing audit. Okay, so why it is important? Because it is specific to a particular industry. Not all the industries will have the same kind of things to be checked. Okay, so that is why this is for, especially for service organizations like NGOs. Even we will read about non-profit organizations. So what are the main things as we do in internal audit? Why do we do internal audit in first place? So internal audit can add value by focusing on risk areas. I hope it is clear. Yeah. On risk areas through the participation in corporate governance and risk management processes. So before an external audit happens, it's not like you wait for that external auditor to come and see. So it is like an internal audit itself is an internal control check that happens. That is a continuous process. Okay. So evaluating and recommending the process improvement opportunities then and there. Then researching the best practices and making recommendations for change. Monitoring the implementation of management strategic actions, and organizing itself as a cost-effective business unit when designing an internal audit function. Strategy must drive tactics and not the reverse. Okay, so those are the main things about why an internal audit is carried out. So first, let us look into audit of hospitals. So when it comes to hospitals, what are the things as an internal auditor is supposed to do? Okay, so first one is check the letter of appointment to ascertain the scope of responsibilities, ownership, control of that particular institution. Where does it lie? Who is responsible? And where the escalation is to be done. Is there a clarity about all these things? And the record proof on who is going to take it up is what are the first initial 2 points regarding internal audit of hospital. Third one is the process. So there is always a process or policies that govern the hospital, running of hospitals, right from the admission, release, outdoor checkup, outpatients also, pathology and other test facilities, operation theatre facility, what other vaccination, etc., and related controls till revenue generation. That is, the billing happens, like there will be patients with insurance, they may go cashless, some might go without cashless, so some may not be covered under the policy. So how they are treated, how they are segregated and looked into. So till revenue generation is still the bills are paid. That is, the revenue is received by the hospital authorities. Normally facility is not provided for other than cash terms. Then we have donation. Yeah, so there is some donation coming in for the foundation for hospital's sake, how it is managed, how it is recorded, how it is registered, special grant, interest or dividend income, etc. So what is this interest or dividend income? If that hospital has an organization, has its funds invested elsewhere, and on that it is receiving interest or dividend income, which is not the main revenue. Main revenue is treating the patients and getting the revenue recognized. But this is something else. It should be validated through necessary supporting documents, and it should be vouched with the reference to the investment register and interest and dividend warrants. So this is something, a line of income, which is different from the usual income the hospital gets. So that is why we should be very careful about this. Ensure purposive donations, grants, etc. spent for the particular purpose only. That is, if someone is donating to put a lab facility or to open up, say, NICU facility in a hospital, and the amount is donated for that purpose, then it should be seen whether the fund created for the same has been utilized for the same purpose and it's not diverted elsewhere. So that is very important, because hospitals might get some donations, some grants, okay. Then clear distinction should be made between items of capital and revenue nature. Irrespective of the type of any kind of a business, always there is a confusion between capital expense, revenue expense. Capital, the revenues which are in capital in nature and which are revenue in nature. So there should be a clear distinction for these two. Then adherence to SOP. SOP is nothing but standard operating procedure regarding CAPEX and OPEX. That is what? Capital expenditure and operating expenditure, which should be treated as capital expenditure, because when you look at hospitals, right, they have a lot of equipments that is used, let it be for testing or let it be in the operation theater or the building itself. So all those are capital expenditure. Operating expenses, that is for running of the hospital. Whatever expenses is incurred for running of the hospital is OPEX. Verify the system of internal checks as regards to purchase and issue of stores, medicines, medical equipment, etc. So purchase register, that is purchase in, should be properly monitored in case of hospitals, because there are chances that instead of that being issued within the hospital, sometimes people may sell it out of hospital. That is, a black market can also be created for such stuffs. So that thing can go wrong. Fine. Examine the appointment of the staff, visiting specialist doctors, payment of salaries, etc. for expenditure booking validations. So you might be having some doctors who are there on payroll, some might be visiting specialists, okay. So how they are treated and how they are actually treated in the books of accounts and how the payment is made to them is important. Then we physically verify the investments, fixed assets and inventories. Inventories basically of medical stuffs, because you cannot age the inventory, because in hospitals when you have the inventory of medicines, okay, always it comes with an expiry dates. So you cannot just like that accumulate inventory, because it is just going to be it's going to go waste, or there are certain conditions where it is disposed of, or it might be sold off also without looking at the expiry date. So we should be very careful with the inventories of medicines which are subject to expiry dates. So that is very important in case of hospitals. Then check appropriateness of capitalization and depreciation rates which are charged and the value in the books. So capitalization and depreciation rates, it's very important. Fine. So this is straightforward, and at the same time you can just link over ki kahan pe the loopholes can happen, and if you target that particular place, you know, it's very easy to get things done. Like for example, if there is a grant donation, there is always a possibility of misappropriation. So that is one point. Always any kind of an organization treating capital expenditure as operating or operating expenditure as capital, that can happen. Even this can happen with regard to revenue. So that is one of the important points. And if any special fund is created, is that utilized for the same purpose? So these are all certain checkpoints which comes to your mind automatically when you think about that particular field or that kind of an industry. Okay. So this is a service organization while we come to hospitals. So shall I move on to the next one? Yes? Okay. So next one is audit of hotels. So it is hospitality industry. It could be accommodation along with food or without food. So there are so many things under it. So what are the internal controls in hotels? So if you are able to list down some in the chat box, that will be good, because I can pick it up from there. I'll give you some time. So whatever you feel like, you just list it out in the chat box. Or you can also unmute and let me know. Ki hotels, when it comes to your mind, right? So what are the things as an internal auditor you would be able to do, or you will be checking it for hotels? If you have any idea, if you have any points, please post it in the chat box or unmute and speak. I'll just try to see whether I'm able to hear on the other side. Yes. So what comes to your mind? Yes, billing method, payment to suppliers. Yeah, PF, ESI, statutory compliance, that is for the salary disbursement of those who are on payroll. Okay, then what else comes to your mind? Billing method, of course. How the billing is done, how the money is being settled. Okay. Raw material quality used, yeah, if it is a hotel industry with catering services or they have their own restaurants, in that case the quality of food is also important, whether they abide by all those things. Yes. Then what else comes to your mind? Food testing results, of course restaurants, they have to go by the food regulations. Okay. Anu, would you like to add something? Methods of leftover food. Yeah, so it's all related to the restaurants, of course. How it is disposed of or what is done to that. So even when we have restaurants attached, right? So we have the inventories to be taken care. So inventories could be for the one that is maintained for the restaurants, or inventory could be for the hotel itself. I mean, like you have small cutleries and other thing, even the jar and other things that they supply room wise, right? How it is maintained, that is. And then inventories that goes for restaurants, of course, they are all perishable items. It cannot be stored for a longer period of time. If it is done so, then it will be rotten, and once again it will be a food quality issue. Okay. So, okay, anything else you want to try, Anu, on these points? Rakesh, you have given a lot of good points. Yes. Anu, anything else you would like to add? You can put it in the chat box. today I think it will be very interesting if we take it into a practical approach, because nowadays hotels are also being online booked. So how the online booking happens, how do you differentiate between a customer who has booked it online and who is booking it in person? Okay, so that is also there. So if it is online, how the process work, how do you remit the things? And in case of online bookings, you also sometimes find that you have to supply some extra, like for example, when you book under OYO, right? So what happens? They give you the toiletries and stuff. But if you are not actually booking the hotel through the OYO, but you are doing it in person, sometimes it's not covered in the package at all. So how you are going to monitor that? How is that you are going to see the release of things from the inventory? All these things are very, very important. So how much ever levels of complications, like even a hotel having a deluxe room with AC, without AC, how is that treated? Sometimes with AC, due to the demand from the customer, with AC will be converted to without AC and you would have charged the same. So how all these things are taken care, how the billing methodology is going to happen, what is the check-in, check-out time, is that proper entry register for check-in and check-outs, and even verification of identity cards of those who are actually occupying the, is there any proper control measure on that also, because that is a process that needs to be compulsorily carried out by the hotels. So when you actually put yourselves in that kind of an organization, you will get a lot of points for internal control check. But in order to put it in a formal way, let's see what are the things that comes under audit of hotels. So quality of the service is the essence of hospitality sector. So it is a hospitality industry. Internal control system should address revenue leakage, pilferage of food or utensils. There is a possibility of this thing, pilferage of food or utensils, that is the kitchen utensils, if it comes with a restaurant. Prompt cash or bank collection process, so there could be some credit card processing, there could be some online processing, there could be some cash processing, how it is dealt with. Appropriate billing as per the service delivery and tariff, that is very important, because apart from the accommodation, if they order something, that is the room service, how it is billed and at what time the payment is collected and all those things, how the bill is prepared and how it is kept track of. Issue or consumption control, proper usage of bar and other license. Yeah, sometimes the hotels comes with attached bar, so is there a proper license for the same? Procurement as per quality norm at appropriate market rate, etc. So the procurement, let it be the bar or let it be the restaurant, everywhere the procurement process is very, very important, that needs to be checked out. Pilferage is one of the greatest problems in any hotel, and it is extremely important to have a proper internal control to minimize the leakage. So that is very important, because there are a lot of people who are involved in hospitality industry. So we don't know how far the theft, stealing is going to happen. So this is one of the important things. Of course, now everywhere the CCTV cameras are installed. Who is coming in and coming out with all the thumb impression, you can find out who was there during that period. So, but always you should be vigilant about what is happening to the small things. Okay, so it could not be like for example, in hotels, sometimes even they put, you know, the towels that they give. Sometimes the customer can carry the towels also, or bed sheets that they give, or the pillows that they give. We don't know what kind of people actually come and occupy it. Okay, so always you should be careful about whether such small theft, it's not just the customer but also those who are working in the organization, how far the control is there, needs to be checked. The following point should be checked: effectiveness of arrangement regarding receipts and disbursement of cash. This is very important. to arrest any revenue leakage. Procedure for purchasing and stocking of various commodities and provisions. So if it is for kitchen, for the restaurant, it is very, very important. Procedure regarding billing of customers in respect of room service, telephone, laundry. So they have lot of services that they can utilize. So whether it has been billed properly, how it is being billed, when the service is delivered, as soon as it is delivered, it is billed, or how it is carried out in the system. System regarding recording and physical custody of edibles, wine, cigarettes, crockery, cutlery. Cutlery is one important thing that goes missing actually. Linen, that is what the bedspread, bed sheets and all those things. Furniture, carpets, etc. So all these things, physically it should be verified as well as it should be matched with the records. It's very important. So these are internal control. Well, coming to room sales and cash collections. So grade wise, that is what, as I told, ordinary, luxury, deluxe, super deluxe, with AC, without AC, all these things, room tariffs, how they are fixed. So off season there will be one tariff, well the season is on, the tariff is different. So how the booking is done on the basis of demand, how the tariffs are fixed, and booking as per the front office and verification with billing or desk to ensure appropriate billing for room nights. Room service like food drinks, laundry, minibar, that is the fridge that is kept inside the room with food, drinks and beverage material. Yeah, sometimes they even give the sports facility, so how far they have used it, etc., recorded and billed appropriately for collection. So usually sports facility on an hour basis they do it, or sometimes that comes with, that is included in the package itself. So there are various sales points scattered in a hotel, and sales are both for cash and credit. So this becomes a bit difficult to manage when a hotel has lot of facilities and lot of services to offer to its customers. The control over cash is very important. The charge for room sales is made from the guest register. That is the guest register. Whoever checks in and checks out needs to be registered properly, and tests ought to be carried out to ensure that the correct number of guests are charged for the exact period of stay. So like for example, 2 plus 1 guest. So an extra bed is provided. So how that needs to be billed, of course, for 1 night or 2 nights, whatever is the stay. If that room is meant for only 2 people and there is another person who is even taken in, so you should be careful about billing that thing. Any difference between the rate charged to the guest and the standard room rent is to be investigated, so that it needs to be properly authorized. Credit card transaction, debit card transaction, there are even foreign exchange and check in case of special corporate bookings, NEFT transfers, etc. should be tallied with the bill value. So there are a lot of ways in which the payment can occur. So if it is online, then we have an online record, but when it comes to cash, it becomes a bit difficult, and when it comes to foreign exchange. So if you are going to do foreign exchange stuff, okay, you should be very careful about the identity of the person, whoever is offering the forex for exchange. So all these things should be well documented, and the process should never be surpassed. Okay, so whatever is 1, 2, 3 of steps to be followed, that needs to be followed. No shortcuts to be allowed. So this also depends upon how do you train your staff in doing that particular job. That is also very important. Then daily room occupancy report. Of course, this room occupancy report has got a lot of things, like you might find certain hotels which are on like very at cheaper cost you will get the rooms. How is that possible? That is based on the daily room occupancy report. So when they come to a conclusion, okay, these rooms are left unbooked, maybe this is not a season, it's an off season. Instead of leaving the rooms vacant, when you just flash all those things online, it becomes it's a win-win situation for both the customer as well as the hotel, because hotel gets to utilize that unused or that which is in inventory for its to issue the rooms that are vacant, and it's a win-win situation for the customer also, wherein he gets that at a much lower price. Okay. Check-in and check-out record and billing for occupancy to be validated on daily basis. The total sales reported with total bills issued at each sales point have to be reconciled. Of course, this should happen on a daily basis. And how it is handed over to the next shift, because usually hotels, they actually work for 24/7. It's not like whenever it's not like there is always a holiday for them. So it is, there'll be a shift. So a person who is handing over his shift to another person, he should be careful about handing over the cash, getting it tallied and then handing it over. So all those processes should be followed and it should be in place. Then food bills with COT, that is kitchen order token and signed customer copy as evidence for consumption. So you always have that facility. You go use the restaurant and you sign and give your room number to at the counter. So while you check out, it's all billed. So you are there to put a counter sign on the document. So other facility charges with respect to facility usage token as per prevalent tariff. Special care must be taken in respect of bills issued to customers who are staying in the hotel, because they may not be required to pay the bills immediately in a cash but a future date or by credit cards. So credit cards will take a bit of time for that to get realized. So billing is to be done room wise and it should be ensured that all customers pay their bills on leaving the hotel or within the specified dates. So what are the things in place of control needs to be checked. So cash is one important area in case of hotels wherein there is every time someone newly coming in, checking in as guest and checking out. So we should be very careful about it. So control needs to be placed there. Then coming to stock. Stock is a very important thing, that is utensils purchased, records for issue to housekeeping, kitchen, etc. to be regularly updated and periodically verified. The stocks in a hotel, like all saleable items, they have food, beverages also are on their counters, need to be compared with the kitchen and other relevant records, consumption of raw items, etc. And this needs to be physically verified at periodic intervals. It is not like you just leave it off at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter you do. It's like in and out of the day, it needs to be checked periodically. The following may be noted in this regard. Food procurement and issue to kitchen, that is what is kitchen of things, KOT, kitchen order token, validation process with the guest orders. Stale, outdated food to be thrown bin also to be recorded for reference. So this has been very well given by Rakesh, that methods of leftover food, how they are being disposed of is also very important, because stale and outdated causes food poisoning. Okay, so you should be very careful when you have the restaurants attached to or bars attached to the hotels, because you are serving humans, you are dealing with humans. All movement and transfer of stocks must be properly documented. So there comes the role of a storekeeper. So he is responsible for all the movement records to justify the stock at hand. Areas where stocks are kept must be kept logged and the key retained by the departmental manager. A key holding register to be maintained to fix responsibility with respect to mishandling at the time of verification, if any. Unauthorized person should not be permitted in the stores area without specific permission. So when it comes to, many hotels used specialized professional valuers to count and value the stocks on a continuous basis throughout the year. So that is in case of big, if you think resorts and all, right? So they have lot of people actually working around, and you have lot of facilities that is being offered. So you should be very careful to have controls in place, because once there is any revenue leakage or there is any proliferation of materials from the from the hotel, it will end up in loss. Periodical physical verification and documented valuation process needs to be adhered to, and the auditor should ensure his presence at least for the part of the time during verification process. It's very important. You just don't go by the records, you should be physically present to do so. Then one important thing on which depreciation is claimed is fixed assets. So is proper fixed assets registered, being maintained, taking into account the installation date, what is the cost, what is the description, what is the life, and depreciation, how it is maintained, what is the methodology followed, all that needs to be checked. Then comes to section wise or cost center wise detail. Example, manpower deployed, maintenance spent. This comes to the labor part. Wages, managerial expenses, etc. to be maintained on regular basis. So like for example, during peak period, they may have some casual laborers being hired. So how are they taken into consideration? Okay, so the wages payment of casual labor must also be checked thoroughly. Then cost revenue comparison facility wise, when it comes to other facilities like spa, swimming pool, golf course, it needs to be monitored. So sometimes you might feel the revenue that you are getting from such facilities is less than the cost of maintaining all those things. So that could also be one of the reasons why the hotel is facing losses. So therein a cost revenue analysis should be made in such facility which is offered by the hotels. The compliance with all statutory provisions and compliance with the foreign exchange regulations must be verified by the auditor, especially because hotels offer facility of conversion of foreign exchange to rupees and receive foreign exchange from foreign travelers. This is very important. Okay. Then comes receipt and payment verification. Consumption shown in various physical stock accounts must be traced to the customer's bills. That is what we have already seen. And all payments where it is done to foreign collaborator in any way are to be checked. Agency commission agreements, spent validation payment made to brand owner as per arrangement, or all those things. Expenses and receipts are to be compared with figures of the previous year, and if there is something having regard to the average occupancy of visitors and changes in rates. Special receipts on account of letting out of like auditorium, banquet hall. They may have their own banquet halls which is used for any functions, like let it be for birthday, wedding or anything else. Space for shops, exhibitions sometimes they host. Okay, somehow they will try to utilize that period and generate revenue. Boutiques and special shows, marriage parties, etc. should be verified with the bookings and the arrangement made. So here with the bookings, how the payment is released, because there will be advance booking. So how the money is collected and how it is settled when the function is done and when they check it out. So in-depth check should be carried out on the customer's ledgers to verify that all charges have been properly made and recovered. The occupancy rate should be worked out and collection made against the same. Benching of rates with other similar hotels is also important, taking into consideration the quality of services. Material deviation should be investigation. Next, expenses for painting, decoration, renovation of building, etc. are to be properly checked. Like for example, if something is hosted, right, if it's a marriage party or something, if the decoration is provided by the hotel itself, that will be also included in the package. Okay, so it is common that hotel get their bookings done through the travel agents. Yeah, that is common. The auditor should ensure that the money is recovered from the travel agents as per the credit terms allowed, and the commission paid to them should also be checked and according to the agreement. Apart from control over stock of edibles, control over issue and physical stock of linen, crockery, so this we have already seen. The auditor should verify the restaurant bills with reference to KOT, already seen. The auditor should ensure that all taxes have been included in the client's bills. So always you should be careful. When you go for booking, some rates are like including GST, some will not be including GST. So if you see the rate that is shown on the website might be attractive, but when actual billing takes place, you will see over and above a particular percentage of GST will be applied. So whether GST is properly collected, deposited, all these should be taken into consideration. Computation and payment of salaries and wages vis-a-vis number of employees must also be checked. So this goes with the HR team. So that was about audit of hotels. Then comes audit of educational institutions. Okay. So let's take a quick break of 10 minutes. Yes. And then you also try to recollect something on audit of educational institutions, and then we will start with that. Okay. Yeah. So I'll just mute myself. Hello? Yes, let's continue. Okay. So audit of educational institution. So this is also very, very important because what comes to your mind actually when it comes to audit of educational institutions? Where are the places like where you need internal control checks? So can you just, I'll give you 5 minutes time, can you just recollect something or put yourself and think about what could be or where could be the internal controls be placed in case of educational institutions? Yes, you can list it down now in the chat box. Yes. I give you some time. And that's the first and foremost point. Okay, okay. Okay, great. Payment method. Okay. Then what else? The type of category of colleges also matters. So whether it is a private college, whether it is government run college and all those things. Yes. Then fees receipt, of course. Yes, that is very important. Grants receipt. If it is for a particular fund, okay, for raising a building, then it should be used for that only. It should not be diverted anywhere else. So that can happen. Grants that are received. Yes. Of course, internal checks and controls, especially wherever the cash is involved. So nowadays, some colleges are behind accepting cash than that of online things. Okay, so when it goes with cash transactions, there are lots and lots of problems or revenue leakage can happen. Assets register, of course, that is very important. Then what else you think? Yes, Anu, if you have some points, you can also add it up. So today's discussion is very interesting because we have a lot of practical things that we are actually supposed to check or where it can go wrong. That will give rise to the controls that needs to be placed in that process. Okay, so that way it is very important. Okay. That's a very good try. Yes. So let's see what we got to list down. Okay. So ownership of educational institution is the first thing that comes into picture. Whether it is government run or whether it is private or whether it is trust owned, etc. Because each and everything will have their own regulations. Of course, statutory compliance with regard to safety standards. Yeah, that is also important. So whichever kind of organization that we take, let it be hotel or let it be even hospitals, you can include it there. That is also important. So the special steps involved in the audit of an educational institution are the following. First one, document relating to formation of the institution, affiliation. So like we find many schools, okay, many schools are just like that, shut down saying that it was holding false records on affiliation to a particular board. So affiliation, whether they have documents for the same, management structure, governing body, the ownership, etc., it requires due attention for fund monitoring, donation, spent approval process, affiliation payment, etc. So examine the trust deed or the regulations, whichever is applicable to that particular educational institution. So in the case of university, refer to act of legislature and regulations framed thereunder. So if it is under UGC, it will be a different case. If it is a private university, they will have their own rules and regulations. Even right from the appointment of the teachers when it comes to schools, and for appointment of professors, assistant professors. So there are a lot of rules and regulations that needs to be followed. For example, in CBSE school, it is compulsory that whoever is appointed in the teacher role is a B.Ed. Okay, so just a graduation is not enough. They need to compulsorily undergo B.Ed. If it is professor, assistant professor, either you hold a PhD degree or you have some publications, PhD and publications. Apart from that, NET, and those who are actually, NET comes under the UGC. So UGC's NET, if they have cleared, then they are eligible. So the appointment of the teaching staff is also important, whether the proper rules and regulations have been followed, whether proper document verifications have been done for those people who have been appointed under the teaching roles. When it comes to non-teaching staff, how are they appointed? Are they on regular basis or on contract basis, or how the payment, disbursement, everything takes place? So some educational institution even comes with hostel facilities, with kitchen facilities, that they have their own canteen. So in that also inventory control, how the food is being sold, what is the contract that they have, contractual agreement with this vendor who is taking care of the canteen, what food safety measures are being followed, is there any records of issues like food poisoning and other things, and what are the controls in place to check all those things so that they don't use any stale things or expired products which causes food poisoning in children or students. So as you think about each and every area in an organization, right, everywhere there are chances for malpractices, because everywhere human beings are involved. Ignorance can also be one of the things, like deliberately they ignore it or it doesn't come to their mind. So everywhere the process should be clearly laid down so that the internal control and check becomes easier. Then coming to approving authority for expense, fund transfer, bank account operations. Usually this is the finance team of the organization. Read through the minutes of the meetings of the management committee or governing body, noting resolutions affecting. So whatever resolutions have been taken place. Like for example, if there is revision of fees, like in schools once in 2 years they do it, right? So they have parents teachers associations even. So those minutes of meetings can be taken into consideration. Whatever has happened within the directors or whoever is the chairman heading the organization, so everything should be kept note of, should be properly filed. Properly filed in the cells, properly maintained. Semester or class-wise student register with details of student name, address, Aadhaar card, all these things are mandatory, mapped for ensuring accuracy of collection. So sometimes the educational institution face problems wherein they are not able to recover the fees from the students. So even that kind of a default can actually make the organization to fail or to manage its expenses, because there is loss of revenue. So collection, how they have things in place, like they cannot be promoted to the next level only when the fees is settled down. So if this process is in place, then people won't default. Okay. So where collection through direct banking takes place, the bank statement to be equated with the fees receivable or recoverable for completeness check and proper revenue or collection recognition. And whatever fees is collected, it should be checked with the fees book counterfoil. Reconciliation should be carried out for fees collected at the counter. Collection against every student whose names are appearing in the student register is to be validated, and unpaid ones to be followed up. That is important. Recovery of the pending fees. Then updation of student register, that is in case of students who are taking TC, transfer certificate, who have discontinued, who are transferred from one branch to another branch, where you have dropouts. These all things should be checked and updated on a timely basis. Fees condonation by appropriate authority to be considered for reconciliation between receivable fees and received. So sometimes scholarship may be attached to it. Okay. Admission and other collections like late fees, transfer charges. So all these should be tracked separately, because it is something peculiar or specific that happens and which is not regular in nature for all the students. and booked under appropriate account heads. Then confirm that hostel dues, that is when it comes with residential kind of a facility, then whether hostel dues were recovered before the students' accounts were closed, and their caution deposits. This caution deposits, if they are refundable in nature, whether this has been adjusted for or whether this has been refunded is very, very important, which needs to be tracked. Verify other sources of income, like for example, if they have a land or something and they rent it out, so they get rentals from that, bank fixed deposit, interest from the deposit certificates, etc. So all these sources of income are not their actual source of income, it's a secondary source of income which is not the main income of the organization. This should be kept track. Then grants received with the relevant papers of grant. Yes, appropriate account head for grant receipt and spent eligible thereunder to be checked for compliance. Then review of receipts and payments, income and expenditure for completeness and accuracy of fund balances and bank balances. Completeness and accuracy of income and expenditure need to be ensured all times. All statutory deposits, like whatever affiliation fees they got to pay, whatever compliance, municipal corporation taxes, whether these have been properly paid, settled down. And nowadays it's very easy because everything is online. So you get the prompts for the due date, and if it is settled, always it's there online. So it is not like before where you have to go to the office, pay for, even the EB has become online. So more and more when we look at digitalization, the accuracy, the error proofing is already done at that level. Alright. Vouch all capital expenditure in the usual way and verify whether the same has been sanctioned by the committee. And establishment expenses, approvals, inquire into any high volume expenditure. So something which looks suspicious. So you are suspicious or skeptical about certain expenditure, then you can do so. Then verify the inventories. So inventory verification is also one of the important things. So that is of furniture, stationery, clothing, provision and all equipment. See, provisions for food and other things comes when they have their own canteen facilities, but these provisions might be given by the contractors. So the vendors will be bothered more about it. So you are supposed to see whether the vendors are following and settling the payments. I mean, you are receiving the revenue from them too for giving or granting the agreement. I mean, for granting the permission for them to run the canteen. Against the spend book for the period under review and physical existence. These should be checked by reference to stock register, and values applied to various items should also be test checked. Appropriate fund accounts are to be maintained. That is very important. Like for example, you get a donation for building fund. So that should be properly maintained and should be shown on the balance sheet as building fund account instead of that putting that amount under general reserves. So this is very important because this fund utilization should be also for that specific purpose for which the fund was created. This is very important. So then we move on to cooperative societies. So cooperative societies is a different story. It comes under Cooperative Societies Act 1912. So first comes the compliance factor, whether they are complying with the rules and regulations as stated by the Cooperative Societies Act. So right from the registration, you have to start checking it. So but once the registration is checked, then not much on the establishment, but you have to look into the day-to-day activities where internal controls needs to be put in place. So do you get anything in your mind when it comes to cooperative societies? It is a bit of a difficult one because this is not a usual thing that we deal with, because hotels, educational institutions, we have always been the consumers for the same. So we can also think from the perspective of that. But when it comes to cooperative societies, it's a different thing which we don't deal with it in our day-to-day life. Okay. So if you have any thoughts about it, you can put it in the chat box, like where and or internal controls is required. Yes, I'll give you some time. It's not audible, Rakesh. I'm not able to hear you at all. If you can put it in the chat box, it will be better, whatever you want to say. Yeah, the bylaws, that is very important. That is whatever is there in the Cooperative Society Act. Yes. So basically here we should get income and expense statement, excellent. Their assets and liabilities, once again asset registered, all these will get repeated. Yes, register for membership, whoever is going to join this cooperative society, of course. Okay. Anything else you want to add, Anu? Yeah, minutes of meeting for any decision, crucial decision making, it should be included. And if they have some loans given or loans taken, how it is settled. Okay, because cooperative societies are formed for lending loans to their members too. Okay, they do give help to their members. So how is that kept, how is that tracked? Yes, limits of loans and advances, excellent. How it is recovered, how the interest rates are charged, because usually people prefer going to the cooperative society because they charge you less of interest, all right? So, but at the same time, yeah, of course, loan register, excellent. Then what else comes to your mind? Okay. So let's see petty cash statement. Of course, petty cash is, though it looks petty, there could be lot of revenue leakage from that petty cash. Okay. Fine. So let's go through what the book says about the cooperative society. So here we will be actually going through some of the rules and regulation that the cooperative society rules says, which is new to us, okay, which is not in the usual manner. So that we will go through. Fine. This chapter, this audit of, sure shot, one question comes from here. It could be any organization which is listed here. So, but it's one way it is very easy to answer. Okay, so there are certain things which are universally same for all the organization. Fine. So when it comes to audit of cooperative society, first one is which act actually governs the audit, actually governs the cooperative society. It is the Cooperative Societies Act 1912. So what does section 17 of 2 of that particular act states? It says that it requires the auditor, specifically requires the auditor to conduct an examination of the overdue debts, if any, valuation of assets and liabilities of the society. So this is what the section says, that you need to have an auditor to value the assets and liabilities of the society, as well as to conduct an examination on overdue debts, that is, which is not repaid on time. The auditor of a cooperative society is also required to point out various irregularities, improprieties and departures from the provisions of the Act, rules framed thereunder and the bylaws of the society. So these bylaws, the rules and regulations, whoever is going to audit, first he should get well versed with that, and only then he can do the audit of cooperative society. The special features of cooperative societies audit are as follows. First one, examination of overdue debts. Overdue debts for a period of 6 months to 5 years and more than 5 years should be classified and reported separately by an auditor. What does it happen? Because if there is an overdue, it is going to affect the working capital position of the society. So, while this classification is done, good or bad debts, even that needs to be given by the auditor. And he has to ascertain whether proper provision for doubtful debts has been created for such a case based on previous records. The percentage of overdue debts to the working capital and loans advance will have to be compared with the last year. so as to see whether the trend is increasing or decreasing. It could be in the grant of loans or it could be on the recovery of loans. Both should be taken into consideration. The position regarding cases in cooperative courts, district courts, etc. and the results thereof should also be taken into consideration. So when it comes to overdue debts, so while you are going to answer your question, right, your main heading will be examination of overdue debts. Under that, you are going to list down the points. First, on the period, how it needs to be distinguished. Second, how you are going to tell them good or bad. Third one, whether proper provisions has been created. Fourth one, to compare with last year grants of loans as well as recovery of debt. And fifth one, is there any pending cases in any of the courts, is very, very important. So if you list down in points, it becomes much easier for the person who is correcting, and even you will get a clarity, okay, I have listed down all these points under the main heading. Fine, then comes overdue interest. Now what about the interest that you got to charge? Already there will be interest on the outstanding amount. If it is overdue, what is the rate of interest charged? And overdue interest should be excluded from interest outstanding and accrued due while calculating profit. It will be interest accrued. Okay, so this is very important. How is overdue interest treated? It is treated as interest accrued or accruing in the accounts, the amount of the principal of which the principal is overdue. Then certification of bad debts. Bad debts and irrecoverable losses before it is being written off against bad debts, funds reserve, fund, etc. It should be certified as bad debts or irrecoverable loss. So okay, so and they also have to check whether proper steps have been taken to actually recover. If no steps are taken and just like that you write it off, it is going to badly affect the condition, financial position of the cooperative society. So that is why this certification of bad debts is in place. Then comes to valuation of assets and liabilities. So this is one of the important thing that has been mentioned exclusively under section 17(2) of the Act 1912. So what does it say? Regarding the valuation of assets, there are no specific provisions or instructions under the Act or rules, but with due regard and with the general principles. So here comes the general principles of accounting and auditing conventions, which will come into place to fix up like how to claim depreciation, what is the value of asset, how do you value it, what does the cost include, the incidental expenses incurred during the acquisition and putting the asset to workable condition. Till such time, whatever is expenses or incurred, it should be capitalized. So it is a normal accounting of, principles of accounting. So if the original difference in the original cost of acquisition and present market price is so far reaching significance, and note regarding the present market value may be given. A proper disclosure needs to be made because you cannot revalue the asset. Okay, it could be because of the present inflationary conditions also. The current assets be valued at cost or market price, whichever is low. Regarding the liabilities, the auditor should see that all the known liabilities are brought into the account and contingent liabilities are stayed by the way of a note. So this is all principles of accounting. So contingent liability, usually a disclosure is made as the footnote in the financial statement, giving that is a contingent liability, and if it turns out against the organization, this could be the possible loss. You can just give an approximation of the loss that can happen. Then adherence to cooperative principles. So the auditor will have to ascertain in general how far the objects for which the cooperative organization is set up have been achieved in the course of its working. While auditing the expenses, the auditor should see that they are economically incurred and there is no wastage of funds. Middlemen commissions are as far as possible is avoided, and the purchases are made by the committee members directly from the wholesalers. So that is the main idea of setting a cooperative society, so that they just eliminate the middlemen people and they try to take maximum advantage. The principles of propriety audit should be followed for the purpose. Then observations of the provisions of the Act and the rules. So what should the cooperative society, an auditor of a cooperative society should do? He should point out the infringement with the provisions of Cooperative Society Acts, rules and bylaws. And the financial implications of such infringements should be properly assessed. This is very, very important. So some of the state acts contain restriction on payment of dividends, which should be noted by the auditor. It's not like all cooperative society pay of their dividends. Then comes the verification of members registered, as properly pointed out, registered for membership. Examination of entries in the members, passbooks regarding the loans given and its repayments, confirmation of loan balances in a person is very much important in a cooperative organization. Next comes special report to the registrar, that is who comes under that act. So during the course of audit, if the auditor notices that there are some serious irregularities in the working of the society, then may he immediately report these special matters to the registrar. That is very important. Reporting, just finding out is just not important, it is also crucial, but proper reporting to the proper authorities is very important. The registrar, on receipt of such a special report, may take necessary action against the society. So in the following cases, for instance, a special report may become necessary. First one is personal profiteering by members of managing committee in transactions of the society. That is always a possibility, because you have the management on top who takes care of things, right? So there are chances of them taking the personal benefit out of the cooperative society. Detection of fraud relating to expenses, purchases, property and stores of the society, that can also happen, and such detection should be immediately, a special report needs to be submitted to the registrar. Specific example of mismanagement, including decisions of management against cooperative principles, that is what is bylaws. Okay. In case of urban cooperative banks, disproportionate advances to vested interest groups, that can also happen, favoritism, such as relatives of the management or deliberate negligence about the recovery thereof. This could all happen. So cases of reckless advancing, where the management is negligent about taking adequate security and proper safeguards for judging the credit worthiness of the party. So if this results in bad debts, then think about the position of the cooperative society. So that is what special reports need to be prepared and submitted to the registrar whenever the auditor comes across such cases. Then comes audit classification of society. So after a judgment of an overall performance of the society, what does the auditor do? He has to award a class to the society. So this judgment is to be based on the criteria specified by the registrar. So what are the registrar states, that criteria needs to be followed in order to give the or award the class to the society. If the management of society is not satisfied about the award of the audit class, it may take an appeal to the registrar. So this is the next step. If the management finds it unsatisfactory, then it can go and appeal to the registrar. Then once again, the registrar will direct to review the audit classification. So the auditor should be very careful while making such decisions about such societies. So there could be an appeal that can be expected. Formation of cooperative society. So now actually it comes into the rules and regulation. How a cooperative society is formed, how the audit is fixed up, how an auditor is appointed, what are the rights and duties of an auditor, and what are the books, accounts and records that needs to be maintained by the society. All these things are part and parcel of the Act. So now what we are going to go through for the next few minutes is all about the rules and regulations that comes under the Cooperative Societies Act 1912. Fine? So this is basically the Act itself. Like yesterday we were going to the PMLA Act. So similarly, this is a Cooperative Societies Act. So any 10 persons who are competent to enter into a contract, what they can do, they can make an application to the Registrar of Cooperative Society as per Section 6 of Cooperative Societies Act 1912. Then bylaws may be framed by each society and should be registered. So it should be framed and registered with the cooperative societies. If there is any change in bylaws, once again it needs to be approved by the Registrar of Societies. So there are actually two types of societies. We have limited liabilities and unlimited liability. So any member is not liable to pay more than nominal value of the share held by them, and no member can own more than 20% of the share of the societies. This is very, very important as to the holding of share of societies, not more than 20%. The government is encouraging all these cooperative societies, and they are operational across various sectors like consumer, it could be industrial or services, marketing, etc. So under the accounting system of cooperative societies, the term receipt and payment are used for twofold aspect of the double entry system. So members are elected at the annual general meeting. The day-to-day of a cooperative society is managed by this managing committee. Then comes audit of cooperative societies. So we have already seen Section 17 of Cooperative Societies Act. What does it say? The registrar shall audit. The registrar shall audit or cause to be audited by some person authorized by him by general or special order in writing on his behalf the accounts of every registered society once at least every year. So annual audit is a must there. The audit under subsection 1 shall include an examination of overdue debts, if any, and a valuation of assets and liabilities of the society. So this is what we have seen in the preliminary stage itself. These are the two things that is important. One is examination of overdue debts, another one is valuation of assets and liabilities of the society. The registrar, the collector, or any person authorized by the general or special order in writing on his behalf by the registrar shall at all time have access to all the books, accounts, papers, securities of the society, and every officer of the society shall furnish all these information whenever they are asked for. Whenever there is an inquiry or inspection, they are supposed to furnish it. They cannot withhold anything. So this is what audit of cooperative society is stated under the Act. Then coming to appointment of an auditor. So who is eligible? So who has the right to appoint? Of course, the Registrar of Cooperative Societies will do the appointment of the auditor. The auditor will conduct his audit on behalf of the registrar. The audit fees will be borne by the cooperative society according to the scale of fees which is prescribed by the registrar, and the auditor is required to submit his audit report, that is important, directly to the registrar, and the one copy of the audit is submitted to the concerned society, because he is being appointed by the registrar, but the fees is being paid by the society, cooperative society. He is obliged to send the report, submit the report directly to the registrar with a copy which needs to be submitted to the concerned society. So this is the procedure for an appointment and how the auditor should react in a situation where he has to submit. Okay. Then comes rights of an auditor. As an auditor of a cooperative society, what are the rights he has? He can access all books, accounts, documents, whichever he requires for verification from the society. And he has to see the balance sheet of the society, whether it shows a true and fair view of the business. And every officer of society is bound to give all the information regarding the working and the transactions of the society. So it is very important. So these are all rights of an auditor. No one can deny withholding all this information. When it comes to duties of an auditor, what is he supposed to do? First, he should get well versed with the Cooperative Society Act 1912 and the bylaws of the society. This is very, very important. If there is any type of irregularities found by an auditor during his audit, okay, whether it may be with the Cooperative Societies Act 1912 or with the bylaws, he should immediately report it. An auditor should ascertain how many shares are held by each member. That is important, because not more than 20% of shares should be held by the members. An auditor should be well aware of the powers of officers regarding loan, investment, borrowings, advancing of the funds, what is the basis, how the recovery process happens, what steps have been taken to recover. All these things should be taken into consideration. He should thoroughly check and vouch for the cash book and the bank book. He should check all the receipts and payments of the society according to the standard auditing practice. He should go through the agreements between the society and the borrower, like what are the loan agreements, what are the rules and regulations attached to that loan, what is the interest percentage, what is the repayment schedule, everything he got to check into. And he should carefully vouch and verify that loan given to the members of the society is according to the agreement, regulation, or any resolution that is passed by the board. That should be taken into consideration. And then he has to assure that a loan given to a non-member is not without the permission of the registrar. Usually members will only be considered for giving loan facility, but if it is given to a non-member, then it should not be without the permission of the registrar. So he should verify the loan given by the cooperative bank should be according to the prescribed limit, and he should physically examine and verify the assets of a society. He should adopt different methods for different kind of societies. Balance sheet, P&L, auditor report, it should all be according to the pro forma that is given by the chief auditor of the cooperative society of the state. Account should be also according to that act and also with the provision of Income Tax Act. So you should go with these two acts. All the assets, expenses, income, cash in hand, etc. should be vouched and verified according to standard accounting procedures and principles. Books, accounts and other records of the society. So what are the books, accounts that is prescribed by the Maharashtra government? So if you see here, cash book, general ledger, stock ledger, personal ledger, register of members as it was already given, register of shares and debentures, minutes of books, minutes book of whatever meetings are happening, property register, register regarding loan applications, processing of loan, maintenance of register of audit objections and their rectification. This is very important. Whenever an auditor comes out with a problem, okay, so how that particular objection was actually worked on, it should be rectified. It should not be like he has qualified the report and that is just like that left. So it should be worked on and see to it next time the same adverse comments doesn't come or surface. Special features of cooperative audit. The checking of posting, arithmetical accuracy, vouching, verification of assets and liabilities, and scrutiny of balance sheet are the same as auditors do in any other case. But what is that? Something which is special. One is examination of overdue debts. That is 6 months to 5 years and 5 years ka alag se, 6 months to 5 years separately, and shall have a report in his. And overdue interest, it should be excluded and it should be accrued for valuation of assets and liabilities. So general principles of accounting needs to be followed for valuation of assets and liabilities. Adherence to cooperative principles, that is very important. And then certification of bad debts, that needs to be provided by the auditor. So he is going to give this. And then observation of the provision of the acts and the rules. So he should be very much well versed, the auditor, with the rules and regulations of the cooperative societies and the bylaws of the society as well. Verification of a member register, examination of their passbook. So here they have listed it in the points. It is something repetitive in nature. So you can actually go by these subheadings, which are very, well, if you synchronize all these things, these become the good points for an auditor to check through. So special report to the registrar, if there is any irregularities, he is going to give the special report. Audit classification of the society, that is where we saw the appeal and stuff. Discussion on audit draft, then bylaws, what are the bylaws that are for the cooperative society and whether it has been properly approved by the registrar. See, there could be bylaws for the society separately, but it needs to be approved by the registrar of cooperative societies. Then investment of funds. This is one area where you should be very careful. A registered society can invest or deposit its funds only in where savings bank account of government banks, that is the nationalized banks, any of the securities specified under section 20 of the Indian Trust Act 1882, the shares or any other security of any other registered society. Any bank or person carrying on the business of banking approved for this purpose by the registrar. So only it is approved by the registrar, or any other mode permitted by section 32 of Cooperative Societies Act. So these are the avenues in which the funds can be invested and revenue can be generated. So these are the avenues. They cannot just like that go and invest their funds in a stock market, right? So these are the restriction on where to invest the funds. There are also other restrictions on cooperative society. One is shareholding, which we have already seen, that they cannot, any member cannot hold more than 20% of share capital or the shares of the society. Restriction on transfer of share. So a member of a registered society with unlimited liability cannot transfer any share held by him or his interest in the capital of the society unless he has held it for at least 1 year and the transfer and change are made to the society or the member of the society. Then, excuse me, a restriction on loan. How about loan? According to section 29 of the Cooperative Societies Act, a registered society cannot advance any loan to any person other than a member. If they are going to give it to a non-member, then it needs to be authorized or permission needs to be granted by the registrar. If not, they are just going to lend money only to the members. And a society with unlimited liability cannot lend money on the security of a movable property except there is a sanction from the registrar. And the state governments have the power and can prohibit or restrict loans against mortgage of immovable property by any registered society or class of registered societies. So, while we look at loan, granting of loan, these are all the restrictions in case of cooperative society. When it comes to restrictions on borrowings, so it can receive deposits, loan from persons who are not members of the society, but only to an extent as may be prescribed by the Cooperative Societies Act or bylaws of the concerned society. Then exemptions. Okay. So according to section 28, the central government may exempt any registered society or class of registered societies from income tax, stamp duty or registration fees. Income tax here payable on the profits of the society or dividends or other profit related to payment received by the member of the society. So this can be exempted. What else we have? I think this is the last part. We'll finish this off. Reserve fund, contribution to charitable funds and distribution of profit. This is very, very important. What is the guiding rule for reserve fund? How do you contribute to charitable funds and how your profits is going to be distributed? So according to section 33, the first 25% of the net profit earned during the year should be transferred to a reserve fund. That is very, very important. So 25% of the profit should go there. 10% of the balance amount of net profit after transferring the 25% to the reserve fund. That is 75% may 10%, because 25% you have already transferred. A registered society can contribute for charitable purposes, and that too with the sanction of the registrar. Under such conditions as may be prescribed by the rules or bylaws, the balance amount of current profit plus past year profits can be distributed to the members of the society. And dividend can be distributed according to the rules and bylaws, but at no point of time it can be more than 6.25%. So a member is eligible or entitled to only this many percentage of dividend of his shareholding. His shareholding on the other side is not more than 20%. You should remember. Out of that, he will be getting 6.25% as dividend. So only after the special order of the state government, unlimited liability society can distribute its profit, or otherwise it cannot. So these are all the important things related to how much funds need to be transferred to reserve fund every year, how much can be contributed to the charitable funds, and how much can be distributed as profits to the members. Okay? So with this we come to a conclusion of cooperative societies. Got it? So here there are certain rules and regulations of the Act that we should be aware of, and it's very important to remember this, because as an auditor for cooperative society, he should first know the rules, regulations and bylaws, and only then he can do the audit. Fine? So that's all from my side for today. So we'll meet in the next session for few more things under audit of service organization, and then we will close this chapter. Fine? So thanks a lot. Have a good evening. Thank you all. Good night.